Things went down, guys. Things went down this week on Airbnb. And you know, on the channel, I do talk about all the positive. I actually feel like I talk about some of the negative stuff too. But they got it so hot that it actually caused the front wall of this A-frame to begin to smolder. Yes, I do. Your guest has informed us that there was an intruder in the studio inside of the closet and she could hear them breathing. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, look, if you want to go get a hotel, you know, we can do that. No, I'm not leaving my stuff. But in today's episode of Robuilt, I actually wanted to talk about everything that went wrong in the last 7 days. 7 days. Because it was a lot. I mean, it really was. You know, the old phrase, when it rains, it pours, could not be more true in the world of Airbnb. When you have a 35-unit portfolio, then, you know, things going wrong can seem like it's the norm. Here's the deal. Even though everything seems like a big deal, it's actually not a big deal. And the reason I can say that is because when things go wrong, you're not the person that's gonna fix it. You just have to find the person that's gonna fix it. And so many newbie investors would get so shaken up by this list of things that happened in the last week that it could be a very discouraging week for morale. But when you're more seasoned and you're in my phase of real estate, then it's just another Monday. So let's talk about the 15 things that went wrong last week and the lessons that I learned from them. Because let's be honest, even a seasoned pro like me has something to learn every single day. Remember, always be a student of your craft. I still study short-term rentals pretty vigorously. Let's get into it. Number one. This one really wrecked my Sunday. You know, I do pride myself on managing like 2 to 3 hours a week now, especially with my assistant helping out and everything like that. That whole 2 to 3 hours a week thing, that's out the window, all right? This week was crazy. So, let's get into it. Number one, the guests that locked themselves out. At my house, I like to have electronic keypads because you can automate that entire process, right? When a guest checks in, they can enter in the key on their keypad and then you never really hear from them. You don't have to deal with keys. But here's the problem. My cottage in Tennessee does have the electric keypad, but under it, that lock is a deadbolt. So the guest sent me a message and said, hey, the code's not working. And I was like, well, it should be if it was working earlier today. And she's like, well, I do actually hear it going off, but I think maybe we locked the handle. And I was like, not a problem. This doesn't really ever happen. But I was like, you're in luck. There is a door right outside the garage that takes you inside the house. Also has an electric keypad. And I gave her that. And then she called me and she's like, hey, that code sounds like it's working, but the door is still not opening. So that's when we both discovered that she happened to lock not one deadbolt, but 2 deadbolts. 2 deadbolts. Both deadbolts to the house because they decided to leave through the garage. I was like, well, this has never happened before. Can you walk me through like how this might have happened? She was like, well, it's a 13-person group and we hadn't left at the same time and people decided to go through different doors. And they decided to leave through the garage. And I guess they pushed the button and ran out and hopped over the garage so the sensor wouldn't stop them. So this is a scenario, frankly, I'll be honest, I was not prepared for this. I don't have a key outside of my house for these scenarios because what are the chances that they would lock both of the deadbolts and then leave through the garage? Really, it's very rare. It's the first time this has ever happened in my entire Airbnb career. I call Russell. He's my handyman for the property. He's a super great guy. And he's like, let me go out there and work my magic. And he goes out and he tries to do it. And he's like, man, sorry, I cannot open it. He tries to open the garage. He's like, I can't do it without breaking anything. And so I was like, no problem. I'm going to call a locksmith. Locksmith is $250, $300. And then finally, I find this one locksmith for $110. They're going to come out in 45 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, not only are they the cheapest ones, but they are also the fastest because everyone else wasn't going to come out for like 2 or 3 hours. Fast forward to about 3 hours later, guests are still outside. They're angry. They tell me that the locksmith never showed up, but they did see a car drive into the driveway, turn around and leave. Long story short, they basically broke into my house. And so I called and chewed out the locksmith company. I'm like, dude, what the hell? You said you were gonna be there in 45 minutes. It's been 2-3 hours. They respond and they say, oh yeah, well, we pulled into the driveway, but we didn't see anyone there, so we left. Duh! You pulled, oh my God, I'm so angry at this. You have no idea how angry this made me. Because this house sits on top of a mountain and there is a long driveway that goes to the house. And I told them that the guests would be outside the house waiting for them. They thought that I meant right outside the very front of the driveway at the bottom of the mountain. When if you just look up, the lights are on, there's people out there. Obviously that's the house that he's there to unlock. And he says, there's no one in my immediate vicinity. I should just leave. And he left. And they don't even tell me. That's the thing. They never called me to tell me this. They were just gonna let my guests sit there forever. Oh, all to say, guests are angry at me and they're like, well, you should have an extra lock for this. And I'm like trying to say, well, yeah, you're technically right, I suppose, simply because I don't have one and you're locked out. But also, like, you locked both the locks and you left through the garage, which, like, who told you to do that? No one told you to do that. All to say, I'm gonna take the L on this one and say I should have had an extra lockbox present on my property for the deadbolt just for this scenario, which I now have. Cost me 15 bucks to make sure that this never happens again. An important lesson. They won't all be this long. Number 2, in the same vein of the door situation, I had a guest that locked the screen door to the front door when they left. And they said, well, hey, let's lock the front door. And you know what? Let's just lock the screen door too. Why not? And they did that. And so when the cleaning company came, they were locked out of the house. And I was just like, why do people do that? I know it's a force of habit. I've done it before. If you're in a house that has a screen door and you lock it, like if you're at someone else's house, again, it's probably just second nature to them. But let's just say that derailed the afternoon. The lesson that we learned there is instead of having a locking screen door, we're just gonna swap the doorknob for a non-locking knob. And then again, we'll never have to worry about that again. Luckily, there are doors with multiple keypads, so we ended up working it out, but it took far too long. Number 3, my $3,000 water heater. So when you buy a 6,000 square foot Spanish mansion in the middle of Scottsdale, Arizona that was built in 1992, stuff starts to break. And unfortunately, during the stay of one of my past guests, the water heater broke. Now, typically we're able to get a repairman out there to fix it. However, because it's the Rheem brand model Gladiator that Home Depot sells.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Apparently they're super finicky and like none. And I mean none of the plumbers in town wanted to work on it. We called maybe 20 and only 2 plumbers in the city of Scottsdale would touch that water heater. So because the guest didn't have hot water and it was a group of 12 people and an infant that then had to go and take turns taking showers in the casita at the far back side of the property, I told them that I would refund them every single night that there wasn't hot water. So 3 nights without hot water equals 1,500 bucks. Super fun.
I'm so cold.
And then, because the parts for our water heater that's only 2 years old were so rare or so hard to get, and we're gonna take 1 to 2 weeks to get, so we had to buy a water heater for 600 bucks. The labor was $1,000, so 1,600 bucks plus $1,500 in reservations equals $3,100 in losses for your boy Rob. Super fun. Now this one was also like a vampire on my time and just really ate up 3 days of my workflow. Just trying to coordinate with people. And the lesson that I learned here is that good customer service goes a long way, which I already knew, but because I was so active and I kept texting the guests and calling them and checking in and saying, hey, here's what I did, and I updated them on every single thing I did. They were super thrilled, and they paid less than half price for the reservation. So it ended up being okay. So what was the lesson here? The lesson is, the moment something like that breaks, just pay the cost to have it replaced. I knew that this was inevitably gonna happen and I was gonna have to replace it, but I was hoping that we were gonna get the replacement parts, and it really dragged on for 3 days longer than it needed to. Had I just put in for the replacement on the first day, I'd really only be out $2,000 versus $3,000. But I just don't like to frivolously make big financial decisions like that. I like to exhaust every option and just make sure that I have to spend the money before I do it. Plus I have a partner on that property, so I can't just make a big executive decision like that without talking it through with them. Number 4, on the topic of appliances, my AC at my property where the guests locked themselves out, different guest, it froze. ACs freeze, and why is that? And that's because guests like to just turn it down as low as possible, and if it's not cooling fast enough, they turn it down even more, and it's just like a whole thing. So AC froze. That's super fun, and I think the lesson learned here was I have 3 ACs on that property. So first lesson, don't buy a property with 3 ACs. Okay, but the real lesson here is that I have 1 Nest thermostat for like the main AC, but the other 2 are just like the old dinky Honeywells, and there was really no reason to swap them out. But now in retrospect, I should have swapped them off, so I could have put a minimum on the AC thermostat of like 67 versus 50 degrees. Just a little word to the wise here. If you put your thermostat on 50 degrees, that does not make your AC say, oh, I'm just gonna make the air colder. The same coolness comes out of the vent. It just comes out longer, and that's how your property gets to a lower temperature. It's not because you put it low, so don't do that. If you're an AC person, I get it, but when you go to an Airbnb, don't put it on 50, just leave it on like 68. It's not gonna help you to go lower, and you will freeze the person's AC, and then what happens? The AC freezes, and then the tech comes out and says, oh, can't do anything about this for 5 hours until your AC thaws out. Anyways, I'm gonna spend like $200 or $300 on new thermostats so that they can all be locked and automated by me anywhere in the world. Number 5, this one's on me. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that. A guest reached out to me and says, hey, what's the address? Now, my first reaction was just to be super salty and say, as per the 5 messages that I sent you before check-in, and in the trip details of the Airbnb section, you will see the address, and you will see that I don't need to send it to you because we've sent that to you and you just don't read. And that's not my fault that you don't read. But I was like, you know, nice guy. It may not sound like it now, but I am nice. And I was like, yeah, I'll just send her the address. So I send her the address. She texts me and she says, this doesn't look like the house from the listing. And I was like, I mean, it is. It might look a little different because of the lighting or whatever. And she's like, no, we're at a totally different house. So I call her and I'm like, hey, what's up? I don't understand. And she's like, this isn't the house from the chalet listing. And I was like, oh, of course. Of course, I sent her the address to my other property that was 45 minutes away in Gatlinburg. And it's just, no one ever texted me about the chalet because that one is so automated and perfect that I just really never have issues. So I just made the assumption that it was the other property because that one I do get texts for all the time. So anyways, I'll take the L on that one for not checking. That's the lesson learned. I should just always check. I should always say, hey, what's your name? What property are you staying at? I just asked, where are you coming from? And she said, we're going into Gatlinburg. And so I just made my own assumptions, and I was busy too. I had a lot of meetings that day. I had kids that I was helping out. I mean, it was just like a whole thing. So that was an issue on my end. Lesson learned, always check the reservation, which I usually do. This was just sort of the perfect storm of busyness that caused me to make some assumptions. Number 6. I even hate saying this out loud, but transparency, right? So one of my properties out on the East Coast has a wood burning stove. However, currently in the East Coast, it's like 90 degrees plus. It's very hot. Much like where I currently lived, as referenced on the channel all the time.
Not yet sweaty, and I consider that a win.
Oh man, my shirt has gone full wet t-shirt contest.
So the point being, it's very hot. However, I got a message from a guest that said, hey, we just opened the cast iron stove to light a fire, even though it's 95 degrees outside, and there are not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 dead blue jays hanging inside the cast iron stove. Now, you might be asking yourself, why are there 4 dead blue jays in the cast iron stove? And it's because there was like a nest, I think, at the very top of it or something. The nest tumbled and they all fell in. And let me just say, it is the cleaner's job to check out the cast iron stove whenever they're cleaning, whenever the cast iron stove is being used. But in the summer, it's just not part of the routine as much. Now, I will say the birds looked new. Is that how you say it? It looked like it happened within like a couple of days. But the lesson learned here is that no matter how simple and obvious it might seem to check on every single aspect of your house, you still got to do it, because if you don't, you might have a guest that calls you and says that there's 4 dead blue jays inside the cast iron stove. So checking for dead birds is now part of the cleaning checklist, no matter what time of the year it is. Super fun!
I guess I forgot that you never ever make a mistake.
Like I said, that one makes me feel really dumb to say out loud, but hey, I make mistakes too, and so do my cleaners, and we're all people, and we all learn from it, and we all get better. This is ultimately how systems are created, right? Things go wrong, and you say, all right, how do we prevent that one thing from going wrong ever again? And then you create a process to stop it from happening again. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with failing and embracing my mistakes, and that's really what Host Camp, my 12-month mentorship program, is all about. It's a 1-year mentorship that teaches you everything you need to know about launching, running, optimizing, automating your Airbnb business from the ground up. And I'm really honest and vulnerable with it, because I always say that I learn things the hard way so that my students and so that my YouTube audience can learn the easy way. I put it all out there. Y'all know, if you watch the channel, like, I really don't hold back. I'm not happier.
I'm really not interested. Thank you, though.
And in the program, I think we have like 14 hours of content now. We've got 11 different coaching calls throughout the month with interior designers, automation specialists, comping coaches, me. Like, anyways, if you're interested in learning more, you can head over to hostcamp.com and book a free call with someone on my team. Next, ceiling water leak. This is fun. When I built Casa Conejo, the way that the deck attached to the house basically wasn't perfect, and so water would get in there anytime it rains, and that eventually caused a leak into my kitchen and actually broke the drywall, and that was about a year ago. Well, fast forward to today, and it's back! It's back, and it's better than ever!
Stop it. Get some help.
The leak, it's back. It's back and it's strong, and now there's a hole in my ceiling. And so the last time this happened, the contractor pointing the finger at the roofer, and the roofer was like, well, no, I think it's the stucco guy. And the stucco guy's like, no, it's definitely the connection point where the roof. And so it's like a whole thing. But anyways, they're going to check it out today. Luckily, my guest was really cool about it, considering there's like a big flap in the ceiling. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, here it is. This is what it looks like right now. Oh, so anyways, that's getting worked out. Now, again, most people would probably be freaking out. Now, actually, we just had like a 10-year flood or rain or something like that in Joshua Tree. And, you know, it's one of those things where if it hadn't rained that hard, it wouldn't have happened. But because it did, and it did happen, it shows that there's obviously a flaw there in the connection point. So don't really know how we're gonna fix that yet. Here's the good news, and why I don't freak out about this kind of stuff, is that it's not my job to fix it. It's my contractor's job to fix it. I think the lesson is always ask yourself who, not how. Not how am I gonna fix it, who's gonna fix it. Next. Number 8. Oh man, this one really absorbed my night. So we had guests check into our property on the East Coast, and these are really the problem children of the portfolio, but they do well, so we keep them. They checked in, and then they said, hey, I don't like to say this kind of thing often, but I'm not comfortable in your house. house. It's not very clean. There's stuff everywhere. There's like a old used towel in the bathtub, and yeah, so we kind of want to leave and we want a refund. And then I was like, man, I guess we just have to let our cleaners go because obviously they're doing a really horrible job. And I was like really bummed because I like these cleaners. Like I talked to them, I interviewed them. The first time they cleaned, we had great reviews from the guests. I was just like, something is off. So we send that message to the cleaners and they're like, yeah, they're lying. Well, first of all, they just said all the dishes were dirty, but when you talked to me earlier on the phone, I literally told you that I was running the dishwasher. Also, the towel that they have in the bathtub is not a towel that we offer. Here's a photo of that same towel in the laundry room at the bottom of a pile of brand new folded towels. So they would have had to gone to the laundry room, find that towel, take it from the bottom of the pile, get it wet, and then throw it in the tub. And not only did they have that photo, but they had the time-stamped photos of the entire place and it was completely clean. So we went back and forth with these guests and yeah, they were kind of shady in how they like responded. And honestly, they sort of outed themselves and I was about to be like, you know what? You get no refund, get out of my house. But it was a $500 reservation, and in the grand scheme of things, that is such an insignificant amount of money on a 15-unit scale, Airbnb wise, to throw a fit about and lose my Sunday on. And I was like, me, my partner, and my assistant, and we were just like, all right, we can call Airbnb, we can have them cancel, we can kick them out, we won't refund them for this. End of it all, I was like, you know what? It's $500 and we've just spent 2 hours debating this on a Sunday night. I just want to hang out. And also, like, bad people and liars and
Little apple.
are just part of the business, and this never happens. And basically we just have to take it as it is, refund them, and just move on. And that's what we did. And that's the lesson here. Choose your battles. Don't go to battle on every single little thing that happens in your portfolio. Sometimes you have to take a $500 or $1,000 or a $1,500 loss, and I know that that hurts in the moment, but sometimes it's just not worth giving your entire effort for something that's not really gonna pan out in your favor, because there's just so many ways that they could have screwed us over by lying to Airbnb. And we were tired of getting our cleaners involved because we like them and we trust them, and yeah, we don't want to question them when they showed us proof. So I was just like, let's just take the loss and move on. And that's what we did. And honestly, I haven't thought about it since literally this moment, and I'm a much happier person because of it. Number 9, dishwasher being delivered twice. All right. My dishwasher at one of my properties broke. I then sent out my plumber. Plumber's like, oh, your hose is incorrect. You have to do it this way. And he goes and he fixes it. Then the cleaner comes out and she says, hey, it's still broken. Now, mind you, I got this dishwasher for free off of Craigslist like 4 years ago. It was stainless steel, and at the time we were like, oh my God, it's a free stainless steel dishwasher. And honestly, it's been working like a champ. But I was like, all right, well, maybe it's crapped out, but I'm gonna call an appliance tech first because, you know, maybe he can fix it for $200 and I won't have to spend $700 on a new dishwasher. Well, he comes out and he says, hey, to repair this dishwasher, it's gonna cost $750. And I was like, that's more than the dishwasher. He's like, yeah, that's how it is with these appliances. Sometimes it's just not worth it to fix it. So I go and I buy a dishwasher from Home Depot. So Home Depot actually shows up to deliver the dishwasher. Then the guy calls me and says, hey man, there's a dent that's not allowing the door to open, so we have to send it back. And I was like, all right, great. So I call to reschedule it. Different guy comes back out. And then apparently, this is what my guest tells me, that guy was yelling on the phone with his manager and he's like, this isn't my job, man. And then he could hear the manager on the phone saying like, do your job and install the dishwasher. And the guy's like, I'm not doing it. So he grabs the dishwasher and he leaves. And it still hasn't been changed or delivered. I'm still waiting for a dishwasher. And here's the real kicker, is that it cost me $750 to buy this dishwasher, plus the $150 for the service tech to come out, plus the $90 that I paid the first guy for the hose. So I'm in like $1,000 on this freaking dishwasher. Come to find out, I had a home warranty on my property that would have covered all of this, and I could have just saved all that money.
What an idiot!
Oh, I didn't know I still had it. That's the thing. That's why it's funny. I thought it was deactivated, but I looked at it and they had me on auto pay, and I was just like, man, Rob's just full of mistakes this week. So I don't really know what the learning experience here is. Number 10. This is good. This is really good. We're setting up a property right now, and oh man, speaking of deliveries and appliances, we bought a refrigerator from Lowe's. They showed up to the house. I hate just even saying the name Lowe's out there because they really screwed the pooch on this one. They didn't deliver the wrong fridge not once, not twice, not thrice, not 4 times, not 5 times, Caleb, but 6 times! They showed up to the house 6 times with the wrong fridge. Take the fridge that we ordered and it wasn't that one 6 times. I can't even make it up at this point, and that's the crazy part. I really can't. It's baffling. Before you say, oh, well, why would you use them after the dishwasher thing? The dishwasher thing happened with Home Depot. They all suck. No learning experience here other than like, there's no learning experience here. There's nothing I could have done on that one. There's some silver lining though. After getting different refunds and credits, and this was on sale in open box, and then they'd refund us a $2,000 fridge for a total of $700. Not worth it. I would rather have paid full price and just had it right the first time, but I'll take it. Next, do you remember when I said that my AC froze over? Well, that same system, the other AC, then had a leak in it and started leaking behind drywall into my basement, on the hardwood floors, everywhere. It's just a whole mess. Different AC out of the 3 that I had. So I had to get the home warranty people out. They didn't cover certain things. They didn't really cover most of it. They had to clean all the different coils for my ACs. We had to change some filters. That's kind of standard. We had to like install all this stuff and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And $2,000 later, I have a functioning set of ACs, I think. Man, when it rains, it pours. It really does. No lesson here other than maintain your AC. I mean, I don't really think mine were really that ill-maintained. Oh, what could I have done differently there? Nothing really, just bad luck. Outside of maintaining, home warranties are really not in the best interest for the typical short-term rental owner, because when a big system or something breaks, you need to address it immediately. And with home warranties, it could take anywhere from like 1 to 2, sometimes 3 weeks to really get the parts and get everything fixed. And by that point, if you have a full calendar, you have guests coming in, you need to pay to get it fixed ASAP. And home warranties force you to rethink that philosophy, because you're like, well, if I just wait, I can save $2,000. But what you don't realize is with all the different refunds you're gonna be giving, you're gonna lose the $2,000 anyway. So home warranties to me, I've had them since I started buying houses. It really only worked out for me like 1 time out of like 15 claims that I've put in. So I think I'm bearish on home warranties. That's neither here nor there. Let's move on. 12, this is a fun one. Okay, so we bought that motel in New York, and the pool is like days from ruin. Turns out that the chlorine that was being used was like an illegal chlorine or something like that.
Tight, yeah! Whoa!
Sounds legit. So we had to drain the pool, but in doing so, when we drained the pool, previous owner, before the owner that sold it to us, like drove up frantically and was like, you need to fill up that pool ASAP.
Yeah, that's a good story.
The last time we did that, the walls collapsed and we spent like $20,000 to fix it, and we're like, oh man. But we already knew that we had to renovate the pool because the pumps weren't working. We couldn't actually fill up the pool at all. So we had to go and get it hauled in from a different company. But even after we did that, it was too late because the lining in the pool ripped, and so it was already kind of on the fritz, I think. But it's kind of one of those things where we're like, that looks expensive to fix. We were already thinking about ditching the pool because it needed so much work. But yeah, that was kind of the perfect storm of a lot of things, between us needing to empty it from a legal standpoint, to not being able to fill it up because the systems weren't working, to being able to fill it up, to being too late, and then the lining ripped. We were really budgeting about $10,000 to fix this pool, but now it looks like the repairs on that are gonna be pretty close to that $10,000 mark. So yeah. Buy a motel, guys. No, I'm just kidding. I actually really love that project. I'm super excited about it. It's going very well. I don't know what the 15th was. Maybe I missed, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna call it 15 things. But if you stuck around to the very end to find out that there were only 14 things when I said there was 15 things, you're a super fan. Okay, next one, 13, string lights broke. My guests went out and they said, hey, I'm trying to soak in this tub and the lights don't work. And I was like, okay, no problem. Sent out my handyman, he fixed it. That probably still required about an hour of coordination. And an hour for me is pretty detrimental to my schedule, so yeah, that's why I included it here. Last one, 14, guests weren't happy with the condition of one of my properties. Okay, so guests reach out, they said, hey, I'm not really ever confrontational about this kind of stuff, but I saw a string of hair on the ground, and I was like, okay. And then they're like, I saw another string of hair on the ground, and I was like, sounds good, that's fine. And then they were like, there's no power cord to the Amazon Fire Stick that's connected to the TV. You know, we love the place, but we would like this addressed nicely, is what they said. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, like, let me see what I can do. And I called my handyman who installed the doors, and I was like, hey man, the doors aren't locking. And he was like, oh yeah, they do, they're just not locking it right. They have to do this random thing up here. And so I told them that, and they're like, oh yes. Sent a cleaner out immediately. She was like, oh my God, like you work really fast. And then I ordered new Rokus for the property, ready for in-store pickup. And the handyman went and installed them and did a few little tasks that they asked for. Cleaners cleaned it up, and basically they were super happy. And the lesson here, honestly, is the faster you act, the more customer service oriented you are, the happier your customer is gonna be. And I'll just end it on a positive note here, because I actually got a really nice message from them yesterday. So earlier in the week, she said, Robert, thank you. Everything was taken care of so quickly. It is most appreciated. Smiley face, 5 stars. And I was like, okay, that's nice. Thank you so much. And then at the end, she said, we had an amazing time. Thank you for being such a wonderful and responsive host. And then she wrote this like really nice like note that I'm gonna leave right here. Pause it, read it. and that way I don't have to cry on screen. No, I'm just kidding. Just pause it, read it. It's really nice. But this kind of stuff really makes my day. Some highlights though, if you're too lazy to read like me, is that she saw a bear with her daughter and it was like a really fun time. I was just like, all right, this is why I do it. So that's it. That's 14, not 15 things. Yeah, so I'm like pretty chill about it now. I mean, obviously I got salty throughout different parts of this video, but that was mostly because Caleb keeps making noise in the background. But guess what? None of this is that big of a deal. This is just par for the course. And not all of my weeks are like this. That's the good news. I mean, I really actually haven't had a week like this ever. This just happened to be where so much stuff was going wrong that I was like, you know what? This would be such a great YouTube video to talk about the fact that it's not always rainbows and butterflies. Like, things go wrong, but as long as you have a good team, you're willing to act fast, you're willing to be customer service oriented, it all ends up working out. And guess what? From a financial standpoint, I made a lot of money in the last week on Airbnb. So outside of making customers happy and fixing their problems, there's always that. I still made money despite all the crazy stuff that happened. All right, so that's it. Thanks to today's sponsor here, Vacation Rentals. And don't forget, if you're interested in learning how to start an Airbnb business, learning from me, having me as your mentor, teaching you how I do things and why I do things and all my philosophies and all that kind of stuff, don't forget to head over to hostcamp.com to book a free call with my team to see if my program is right for you. Oh yeah, like and subscribe. Don't forget, like and subscribe. It's free, guys. I just gave you so much valuable content. All right, love you guys. Bye. Well, I mean, I love you as much as it's like a collective. It's fine. But all right, bye. All right, so actually I hinted about this at the very beginning of the video, a new investment opportunity that I'm working on. I'm currently under contract on a 23-unit cabin resort in Big Bear Lake, California, and I'm partnering up on this with my good friend Tony Robinson. There's a really great opportunity to add massive value to this, increase the ADR, the average daily rate, by as much as 30%, and add other forms of income streams ranging from corporate events to weddings. But here's the catch, you do have to be accredited. So if you're interested in learning how you can invest in this opportunity with me and Tony, we're actually gonna be hosting a live workshop tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central. You'll have to register to attend. I'm gonna leave that link down in the description below. All right, so I hope to see you there tomorrow, and I'm excited to possibly partner up finally with my YouTube audience. Okay, talk soon.